I'm State Senator Bobby Powell Jr. representing Senate District 30 in Palm Beach County, and this is the Powell Press, bringing you the 6th week of the 2020 legislative session. And I've got some important issues that I'd like to discuss with you. This week, I had the opportunity to present several bills before committee, inclusive of the internship tax credit program, children's mental health, and juror sanctions. I also had the opportunity to be co-host of our annual legislative prayer breakfast, and I spent time on the Senate floor. In the Education Committee, I presented Senate Bill 1412, the Internship Tax Credit Program. This bill incentivizes businesses to provide more internship opportunities to degree-seeking students, which in turn will expand and diversify the experience of the incoming workforce. Businesses would now have the opportunity to be allowed to credit up to $2,000 per degree-seeking student if the student is enrolled at a state university, charter, or technical career center. The bill passed unanimously and now moves on to the Finance and Tax Committee. In the Appropriations Subcommittee on Health and Human Services, I presented Senate Bill 1440, an act related to children's mental health. This bill will allow crisis stabilization services to be provided through mobile response teams and strengthens collaboration between state agencies, schools, and children's health entities. This bill also passed favorably and now moves on to the full Appropriations Committee. This week, we also had the opportunity to move a juror sanctions bill through the second step in the process, the Rules Committee. As you may remember, DeAndre Somerville, who was sentenced to 10 days in jail, 150 hours of community service, 12 months of probation, and fines and fees during the summer for missing jury duty, we've decided to push forward legislation that will prevent that from happening not only to any other young person in Palm Beach County, but to any other person in the state of Florida. Senate Bill 1590 aims to match Florida law to the federal guidelines, ultimately changing the maximum number of days to 3 and affords a defendant facing criminal contempt the right to an attorney for missing jury duty. This bill now heads to the Senate floor. As co-chair of the Legislative Fellowship Group, I again had the pleasure of co-hosting the annual Legislative Prayer Breakfast this week alongside my co-chair, Senator Doug Broxson. The Senate President, Bill Galvano, and House Speaker, Jose Oliva, gave powerful speeches and prayers encouraging members of the House and the Senate to work together in unity and in service. Representative Mel Ponder was the keynote speaker, and he provided a dynamic message aimed at unity here in the legislature. On the Senate floor, we discussed a bill that would create more lenient sentencing guidelines for crimes including possession of small amounts of controlled substances. These individuals may not be imprisoned for a term longer than 12 months. It also deviates from the mandatory minimum sentencing guidelines for drug trafficking. This bill is on its 3rd reading and will be voted on next week on the floor of the Florida Senate. That's all for this week's edition of the Powell Press. I'm Bobby Powell Jr., State Senator for District 30, asking that you join us again next week for the 7th week of the 2020 legislative session. Remember, like, subscribe, share, and comment to stay involved and aware of what's happening with the 2020 legislative session. A life of service is indeed a life that counts. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.